The movie starts in 1938, during Spain's brutal civil war between the Republicans and Francois. The Nazis have allied with the Francois. One day a Nazi soldier crashes a village wedding and his men kill all the guests. Afterward, they release a strange green chemical from canisters. Meanwhile, a blindfolded man is about to be executed by a firing squad. He tries to talk his way out, mentioning his uncle is a high-ranking general, but they ignore him. Just in time, his uncle shows up and saves him. The man's name is Jan, a captain in the Francoist army, known for being a smart aleck and a rebel. He has helped many deserters avoid punishment as a lawyer. However, after attacking a judge close to the Francois, he almost faced execution. His uncle couldn't get him off completely. Instead, Jan is sent on a dangerous mission. He must go behind enemy lines and cross a mountain range to deliver a message to a general. Jan is accompanied by a young, naive private he once helped. They quickly prepare to leave. Before departing, Jan lights a cigarette for a wounded friend on a stretcher, showing a moment of kindness before the nurses take his friend away. He also notices the Nazi soldier at the base. Driving through dense forests, Jan asks the private why he joined the war. The private explains that his village is famous for delicious puff pastries made by nuns. If the Republicans win, they would destroy the nunnery and the pastry recipe would be lost. He couldn't stand the thought of losing such a treat, so he joined the Francois to protect the nuns and their pastries. While driving, Jan and the private see two fighter planes battling in the sky. One plane crashes, and the pilot parachutes down into the forest. Jan tells the private to stop the car so they can help the pilot. They trek through the forest but find the pilot already dead. As they turn to leave, Republican soldiers capture them at gunpoint. The group leader, recognizing Jan as a captain, suspects he is on a crucial mission. He orders a female soldier, Matacuras, to search Jan. She finds a message in his boot which simply reads that victory in war requires courage. The group leader thinks it's a coded message and interrogates Jan, who realizes his uncle fabricated the mission to get him killed. The Republicans decide to take Jan and the private to their camp. As they prepare to leave, an American journalist with the group stays behind to photograph the pilot's body. When he gets closer, the pilot suddenly revives and attacks the journalist. The group hears his screams and shoots the pilot, but even with dismembered legs, the pilot crawls rapidly towards them. Finally, someone shoots the pilot in the head, killing him. The group is shocked and puzzled by how the pilot was still moving. Jan saves Matacuras by shooting a zombie sneaking up behind her. A Russian soldier in their group is bitten by a zombie and overwhelmed by several others, forcing them to leave him behind. By nightfall, they reach a safe house and notice lights on inside. Upon entering, they find a nun along with two Francoist soldiers, a lieutenant and a Muslim. Jan introduces himself as a captain from their army, but the soldiers are suspicious because he is with the Republicans. Tensions rise as guns are drawn, but Jan manages to convince everyone to cooperate for survival. They gather around a table, and the newcomers share their own encounter with zombies earlier in the day. The nun treats group leader's wound. They decide to stay in the house for the night, sharing ammunition and food. Since the Republicans don't believe in religion, group leader asks the nun if the Bible explains the zombie outbreak. The nun responds that it isn't God's doing but rather someone trying to play God. As they settle in for the night, three of them keep watch in the attic. Meanwhile, another Republican soldier, Mecca, and the private bond over their shared love of cars. The private realizes Mecca is a famous racer he admired as a kid and tells him he can race again when the war is over. But Mecca has grown bitter over the years and angrily declares he'll never race again, convinced he'll be dead by the end of the war. With the Republicans losing and the Francois closing in, the Muslim soldier asks Mecca why he continues to fight. Mecca responds that once he starts a race, he always finishes it, no matter the outcome. As the night progresses, the group begins to relax. Jan finds himself captivated by Matacuras, while the group leader is drawn to the nun. Another soldier, Glasses, tries to use the cabin's telephone to contact someone. Jan sits by the fireplace, lighting a cigarette with the paper his uncle gave him. To his surprise, words begin to appear on the paper. In the bathroom, the lieutenant corners Matacuras, attempting to intimidate her into sleeping with him. She firmly resists, revealing she earned her reputation as a priest killer by torturing the priest who abused her sister, scaring the lieutenant away. Upstairs, Mecca spots zombies approaching the house. He warns the group, and they quickly evacuate. Mecca lights dynamite, which explodes after they leave, killing the zombies inside the house. They venture deep into the forest and find the Russian soldier, now a zombie, wandering around. Matacuras urges the group leader to put him to rest. Group leader shoots their former comrade in the head, granting him peace as Matakura closes her eyes. Afterward, Jan pulls out the paper and shows the group a map revealed by the fire. The map is written in German, so Jan can only make out a few words. He guesses it outlines an attack, but not by human troops. Instead, the attack involves zombies created by the Germans' biological weapon. Jan proposes they go to the origin point indicated on the map. They head to the town marked on the map. Glasses privately suggests to group leader that they steal the zombie formula to use it against the Francois, but group leader refuses. The group sees a church filled with German equipment. Inside a confession booth, they find the bride from the beginning of the film. She recounts how the Nazi soldier and his men crashed her wedding, killing all her guests. Her husband shielded her with his body, taking the bullets. Afterward, the Germans released a blue chemical, and the soldiers hid inside the church. The bride hid in the cellar, watching her dead guests rise as zombies. The Germans celebrated as the zombies attacked the survivors. Eventually, the infection spread to the church, and the Germans ended up killing each other until no one was left. Suddenly, Glasses announces he has found the formula the Germans used to create zombies. He plans to take the formula to the communists, hoping they can use it to decimate the Germans. He wants the Republicans to join him and leave the Francois behind. However, group leader and Matakura refuse, valuing the bond formed with Jan and the others. Frustrated, Glasses decides to go alone, but he is suddenly attacked and devoured by a group of zombies. The rest of the group flees into the tunnels beneath the church. During the escape, the bride turns into a zombie and attacks the lieutenant. The Muslim and the nun try to help, but the bride bites the Muslim's boot. Matakura shoots the bride in the head, ending her rampage. The group debates leaving the Muslim behind, fearing he was bitten, but he shows them that the bite didn't penetrate his boot. Emerging from the tunnels, the group heads back into the mountains. Group leader notices the nun has locked herself inside the tunnel. She reveals that she was bitten by the bride and plans to stay behind to handle the zombies. Group leader, saddened, gives her his blessing. Outside, Jan devises a plan to steal the antidote. He also realizes from the map that the Francois and Germans plan to distribute the blue powder across the country. Determined to prevent this, Jan suggests they head to the outpost where the trains filled with the blue powder are being prepared. Group leader agrees, but only on the condition that if they are captured after completing their mission, they face it together. Group leader wants his comrades to be pardoned and promises to take on the death penalty himself if they succeed. Later, the private successfully repairs a truck left in the town and picks up the group. They arrive at the outpost where Jan walks alone to the gate, meeting his uncle and the Nazi soldier. Jan demands they open the gates for his comrades and enemies, but his uncle only wants him inside. The Francois plan to bomb the entire valley, indifferent to the lives lost. Jan returns to the group and they devise another plan. The private reveals he was bitten by a zombie while fixing the truck and intends to carry explosives to blow up the gates, allowing the group to enter. Jan tearfully says goodbye to the private. The private approaches the outpost and is shot dead by soldiers, but he rises as a zombie and successfully triggers the explosives. The group enters the outpost, but a massive zombie horde is right behind them. The lieutenant decides to take control of his fate and separates from the group. Mecha gets on a motorcycle to distract the zombies. The lieutenant is cornered by a zombie but is saved by the Muslim. However, another zombie appears behind the Muslim, dragging him to his death. The lieutenant sprints away from a horde of zombies drawn by his scent, diving into a nearby truck. Moments later, Mecha joins him, but they realize the truck's keys are missing, trapping them inside. Facing imminent danger, they set aside their differences, sharing a moment of solace as they reminisce about their lost families due to the war. Mecha discovers explosives in the truck bed, lights a dynamite stick, and they raise a toast to their fallen comrades before the truck explodes, decimating the zombies. Now only Jan, Matakura, and the group leader remain. The group leader boards a train attempting to start it, while Jan and Matakura search for an antidote inside a train car. They encounter a Nazi who admits there's no antidote, injecting himself with his toxin and transforming into a zombie. Matakura swiftly kills him before he can attack. Suddenly, another zombie hidden behind a curtain bites Jan's hand, prompting Matakura to amputate it to prevent infection. Meanwhile, the group leader faces zombies attacking him. Before ending his life, he expresses hope to reunite with a nun in the afterlife. The train starts moving just as bombings begin, and Matakura and Jan lock themselves in a steel compartment as zombies approach. They share a brief kiss before the bombs eradicate the infected. They wake up to find the zombies defeated and the train still running. At the rear, The Muslim survivor is also safe. With the chemicals and infected zombies neutralized, they ensure the infection won't spread. Later, Matakuras drops Jan off at his village. Despite his invitation, she declines, citing their differing beliefs. As Jan walks into the sunset smoking a cigarette with his one hand, the movie concludes.